Hey, everybody out there. My name is Mike Frekey. I am the managing partner at IG PPC.
So what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
Oh, man. We're getting into it. This is a great question. I think from my side, to me, in every single meeting was, well, Mike, what if we just spend more money? Like, can we just spend more money and see what happens? And like, yeah, Paul, absolutely.
Account. So that's a whole different, thing. So how do you translate that? Because that's a very big bridge that I see, in today's marketplace.
Who was relying on FBA, fulfilled by Amazon shipping, actually was at a significant disadvantage to anybody who had their own fulfillment network.
Small sellers, who have just started their journey, how soon should they start, keeping their data, or how soon they should start, keeping a, log of their data? Because, Amazon is basically, there is so much data that you cannot, especially right now, brand analytics, there is SQP. And that is, you also have seen the price wars that go around when, especially in the niches where, people are still doing wholesale, or people are still doing dropshipping, or, online arbitrage. How do you see that for a long-term perspective? I was like, I'm just going to buy it from Amazon. I went to Amazon and then bought it from there. And yeah, so because...
Ooh, this is a meaty question. This is a really good one.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Syed. Doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So, as usual, we have our first question that, can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody out there. My name is Mike Frekey. I am the managing partner at IG PPC. Been a long time Amazon advertising guy. My favorite thing to do pretty much is spend money. So here I am.
Awesome. So yeah, I saw that you have 80 million in managed spend. So that's pretty awesome. So what was the most difficult part of it? Like advertising is obviously at one point it does become relatively easier, but obviously it has a lot of challenges. So what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
Oh man, we're getting into it. This is a great question. I think from my side, at every stage of becoming a marketer and really diving into the world of digital, especially e-com ads, the biggest challenge was, I think, aligning on what does good look like with each of my clients. Some people come in with a very growth-oriented mindset. I remember one of my first clients that I ever got to grow to being big. It was a unique experience for me because this was my first ever client where I was working directly with the business owner himself. And his question to me in every single meeting was, well, Mike, what if we just spent more money? Like, can we just spend more money and see what happens? And I'm like, yeah, Paul, absolutely. Yeah, sure. We can just spend more money. Let's figure it out. And so getting to see really what a growth first mindset can yield and what sort of results we could get there. That was intriguing. That was a really fun and fascinating part of learning about the marketing space. But then when you realize that you cannot actively work in that capacity with every single person, and that a lot of businesses be a lot more cash flow constrained or cash flow oriented. And some businesses are going to be, low ACOS is the absolute most important thing, whether or not that's right for their business. And so trying to walk that balance of how can I do what is best for this client while also fully understanding where are they at in their life cycle and how that differs from others. That's probably the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I have a continuing question around that, and that is, at IG PPC, of course, you're managing partner. So how do you help your clients, get that vision with your clients? Because now you have multiple clients. How do you translate that for them? Because working directly with and a brand owner, it's very different than working with an ad manager and who is managing 5 or 6 different accounts. So that's a whole different thing. So how do you translate that? Because that's a very big bridge that I see in today's marketplace.
Yeah. So at IG PPC, I really want to put the client experience first. I want to make sure that I am listening. I want to hear what the concerns are of my clients. I want to figure out where their pain points are so I can try to help solve problems. At the end of the day, every single agency, we're just trying to solve problems for you. And if we can't do that, we're not doing our job. But now part of that is trying to figure out how can I leverage my almost 10 years of experience in the Amazon ad space? How can I leverage that into new solutions that may not be on people's minds? My favorite thing that I'm doing
Yeah.
right now is trying to leverage as much as possible brand analytics so that we can get first
Yeah.
party Amazon sales data in here and try to better understand where is my current fit in the market I'm selling in, where are there opportunities for me to grow more, and where am I currently losing, right? I think that's for some clients, you're already at the top. And what you're trying to do
Yeah.
is say, how can I maintain my position as efficiently as possible without saying 3 months from now, oh no, I flipped the switch too far into efficiency, and now
Yeah.
I've lost my bestseller badge, and that's going to be really expensive to buy back.
Yeah, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, because a lot of agencies, when they reach the top, a lot of brands, when they reach the top, that it's a problem that they start facing, where they go into third, they drop down to third or fourth or fifth position, and then it's a whole lot of struggle again. And you also mentioned that you have been in this industry for last 10 years. So how have you seen the change, seen this industry involved, especially post COVID and before COVID times,
Oh
because
yeah,
that was a huge shift. Yeah,
yeah, this is a really fun question. Uh, a handful of different changes I've seen. One, Amazon has given us just a lot more tools at our disposal. I remember getting
yeah,
started, and bulk operations was a brand new feature. I remember the launch of headline search ads, now sponsored brand ads.
yeah,
It feels like Amazon is constantly trying to give us new tools that will make our lives as marketers and brands a little bit easier. Again, not everything is going to be a home run, but I'm really
yeah,
grateful for all of the new things that I get to experiment with every single week. In terms of the COVID sort of line, right, the before time and now the current times, I think one is cost per clicks. It felt like there was a period for 15 or so months where cost per clicks really bottomed out on Amazon, right
yeah,
when COVID struck. That I think people sort of anticipated this was a forever solution. We're always
yeah,
going to get to rely on these very low costs. And I think most people probably in hindsight would have told you, no, this is not going to scale.
yeah,
We're going to see this bubble pop. And so when we got
yeah,
into, call it, mid 2021, I think even just by end of 2022, what I had measured was our cost per clicks that had maybe followed a very stable upward trajectory line that faltered in
yes,
COVID, bounced back even harder than before. And at this point, we're just as if COVID never happened. We're still
yeah,
very much on that trajectory of, you took out the middle part of the graph, you would say, oh yes, I see
yeah,
how this line just continues exactly on its trajectory.
yeah, 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 yeah. I saw that too. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And from data point of view, I think, uh, do you think that the data that we got from during COVID days, is it reliable enough to be used now, or is it, it should be discarded?
I would say almost entirely discard it, especially anything in 2020. Without the benefits of a global pandemic that are, one, forcing people to buy more online at a greater rate, but then two, also forcing competitors to stock out at a greater rate. COVID 100% benefited the people who had, one, control of their supply chain, and two, very quick turnarounds on new inventory. So what I had measured in the height of things in 2020 was that anybody who was relying on FBA, fulfilled by Amazon shipping, actually was at a significant disadvantage to anybody who had their own fulfillment network. And that, again, barring any sort of additional global pandemic, I don't think is going to necessarily be the case moving
Yeah,
forward. I still think people who can benefit from owning their supply chain, at the least just to fight off some of the increase of fees from Amazon, by all
yeah,
means, should be doing this. But I don't
yeah.
think that's a reliable
So,
trend.
so do you think that that is still the case, where people who are doing FBM are at advantage over the people who are doing FBA, or is it just same?
For people who are offering consistently 2-day shipping via FBM, I do think that they actually are at a bit of an advantage. At the very least, their costs are going to be a lot more consistent. They have more control over their end of day pricing that they're offering to their customers. And I think that makes a world of difference. We've seen over the past 2-3 years, Amazon has very dramatically increased their cost structures on
Yeah.
sellers. And that
Yeah.
always goes back to the consumer. And so people who
Yeah.
don't have to stay limited by that type of cost fee structure increase are able to
Yeah.
stay especially more competitive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I do have one question from you for you, and that is you also have seen the price wars that go around when especially in the niches where people are still doing wholesale, or people are still doing drop shipping, or online arbitrage.
Yeah.
How do you see that for a long term perspective? Because these pricing wars, I have seen them fighting over 20 cents on a dollar, or just 5 cents or 10 cents difference. How do you see that? Because that is I think that's a terrible business decision, but yeah, how do you see that personally?
So I want to clarify with you. Are you referring to competitors in the same market, especially with these sort of
Yeah.
knockoff Chinese sellers, but not
Yeah, yeah,
resellers
yeah.
on the same ASIN? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, the brands that are able to really have a narrative in the minds of their consumers, people who are selling anything that have either a repeat rate associated with it, customers are going to come back every 3 months, every 6 months, something like that. They have a reason to come back and repurchase from you. Or if they have a large basket they can build. I sell product A, and then a person who purchases product A from me could be interested in buying B, C, D, and E. I think those brands are going to be a whole lot more successful, because when businesses are fighting for scraps over how low can we get our price to still be competitive, are not going to stay in business for overly long. And that's the
Yep, makes
unfortunate
sense.
truth of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, you have been a data scientist before you have been in advertising. That's what I have, gathered. But for small sellers, who have just started their journey, how soon should they start, keeping their data, or how soon they should start, keeping a, log of their data? Because, Amazon is basically, there is so much data that you cannot, especially right now, brand analytics, there is SQP, and there are thousands of other reports that we have to
Yeah.
how should we go about that?
Yeah. Well, I will say data scientist is a very kind word for me. I'll consider myself more of a data nerd. And when I work with the real data scientists, they are so much smarter than me. But
Yeah.
I love to work with numbers as much as I can. Uh, I think that it's never too early, especially because some of the APIs on Amazon side are still limited to how far back you can start to pull your data.
Yep.
If you are truly a mom and pop type store that are selling 20 units a month, and this is more of a
Yeah.
hobby than it is your livelihood, I
Yeah.
don't think you're in any sort of a rush. But if this is your primary livelihood as a business, then I think you should absolutely be storing your data, if not directly yourself. Find a third party who has the API hookups. They're going to pull all of your data for you. They'll keep everything in a data warehouse. That you should definitely be doing that. The ability to go back in time and just look at year over year trends. I'm gonna clarify this down to the advertising level, because hey, that's my bread and butter. That's what I
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah.
Being able to answer the question of what were my top search terms last year, what were our
Yeah.
conversion rates, however our conversion rates changed over the past calendar year, however cost per clicks changed over the past calendar year, and now let's use all of those numbers to try to better estimate, hey, how many units do I think I could reasonably sell this year, given my cost structure, given the margins
Yep.
I'm now working with? Because a lot of times you're not going to be able to duplicate last year's numbers one to one. Some
Yep.
factor will have changed, whether it's your conversion rate, your cost per click, or your price point, or even if not your price point, your margins. If again you're an FBA seller,
Yeah.
your costs keep going up.
Yeah.
With everything always changing, being able to identify what's my baseline that I'm operating off of will give you a leg up in trying to understand how am I going to forecast for success, and then have the inventory to support this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what do you think about the, seasonal sellers? There are a lot of seasonal sellers who only do, sales on Christmas, or only do, Halloween sales. So how does data play a role in there? Because, that data is, you cannot say anything about that. Personally, I cannot say anything about that, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, no, I think this is a tough one. It is especially hard, again, when you don't own your supply chain fully and you are now hey, in order for me to sell a Christmas product in
Yeah,
November and December, I have to order this in February and March. There is
yeah,
no way that you're able to actively use market trends other than a best guess to figure out what
yeah,
you're ordering. The best thing that those sellers can do is, again, if it's not how are you getting from your manufacturer to your warehouse, it is trying to use real-time data to send in inventory from your own warehouse directly to Amazon. Again, I'm talking about for the Amazon FBA
yeah,
type
makes
sellers.
sense.
You need to have some way to give yourself time to react to current data trends. And without that, there's no effective way that you can use data to make those decisions that isn't just a best guess, a prediction of what is to come. And so, again, I think even when you have yesterday's data, that's still at
Yeah,
best giving you a reasonable expectation on what tomorrow should hold. And so
yeah,
I would highly
makes sense.
recommend you give yourself the as many tools at your disposal to, I guess, flexibly deal with what the data is showing you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, Mike, how did you got into advertising, especially Amazon advertising? Because that is a very within advertising, that's a very specific niche. So, how did you came by it?
Yeah, no, this is a very fun question. I started out, this will be going back to college. I was a marketing major, integrated advertising, but what my big passion was actually sports marketing. Uh,
Nice,
and I ended up interviewing for two different companies. One was a digital marketing ad agency. One was a single A minor league baseball team, where I'm pretty sure I
nice.
would have maybe had to put on a mascot uniform, hand out flyers, that sort of thing. And I ended up deciding I got the job offer from the agency, and I said, even though I love sports and I really want to pursue that path, you can see
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
baseball stuff behind me. I decided actually I'm going to try out digital marketing for 1 year, and then I'm going to
Okay.
jump back into sports.
Ni-
That plan did not last because within that one
Yeah,
year, I actually quite enjoyed things. I started out doing a
nice.
little bit of Google ads. That turned into an all hands on deck. Amazon is the future. We need volunteers who want to research
Yeah,
that. That I like doing fun things. Like that sounds
yeah,
great. So I started
yeah,
researching it. I started really enjoying it, and I started. I mean, by the end of my first year, I think they started to let all of the volunteers go, saying like, "Hey, thank you for everything. You no longer
yeah,
have to be doing this. Like, we're giving you an
yeah,
out if you want to stop working at
yeah,
Amazon." But by that point, I was in. So my
yeah,
my plan of make a little bit of money for a year and then go into sports completely floundered because I fell in love with
yeah.
Amazon.
Nice, 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 nice. So, since you love sports, have you ever thought about doing something on your own for, any sports products or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, one shameless plug. If anybody sells a sports oriented product out there and wants to connect, by all means, send me an email, Mike at
Yeah,
igppc.com. Um, no, I think from my side, I I want to work with anybody who wants to grow and has a vision for like if you have a great product and you just want to figure out how can I make advertising help me hit my goals, I want to work with you, even if you're not sports specific. But granted, if you
yeah,
are sport specific, we might be able to have a lot of fun in having those conversations too.
yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot. And that's another question that I have around this is a lot of people who are in advertising are kind of reluctant to start their own brand. Why is that? Why do you think is that? Because personally, I actually had a thought of starting my own brand by the end of this year, and it's almost April, and I have dropped it. I dropped it in February. So
Yep.
why is that? Like, why do you think that happens with? Because a lot of advertisers, like in my circle, they are they love helping others out, but not starting their own brands.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there are, once you've gotten into the Amazon ecosystem, I do think there's a lot of synergy between saying, I know how to do the advertising. If I know how to do the advertising, at least I know a little bit about what makes a good product detail page. And if I know
Yeah,
what makes a good product detail
yeah,
page, then, and I've already been familiarizing myself with Seller Central, well, chances are I've gone through at least a handful of cases for my clients where I
yeah,
know how to manage the case logs. And so there ends
yeah,
up being a system where, well, even the things I don't know on Amazon, I can learn. Like the Amazon ecosystem,
yeah,
I think is very, I don't want to say it's too friendly, but it is a system I think if you want to get into it and you're already somewhat familiar with it, the other steps can be easy. I
yeah,
think the real hard part and the reason why you don't see more people take this exact idea saying, I can create my own brand. Why you don't
yeah,
actually carry that out to fruition is because the hardest part of Amazon is getting a product that's actually worthwhile, something that
yeah,
has a value prop, something that
yeah,
you can maintain reasonable margins on and actually solves a need in the market that other people are not already solving that need. Getting
yeah,
that is almost like finding a unicorn. And so when you're
yeah,
already dealing with, hey, my day to day is doing all of the advertising stuff and
yeah,
everything else associated with it, doing the product sourcing aspect of it, I think that's the hardest part.
yeah. I actually in 2023, start of 2023, I did try to source a product, and I quickly learned that it's probably the hardest part.
Yep.
I dropped that thought really quickly, and now I was also gearing up for it. But now I'm like it's better if I just put more effort into advertising. So yeah, but Mike, if you launch a brand, would you prefer launching it on Amazon or would you go by the Shopify route?
I would
What's your
absolutely.
thoughts, especially on 2024, especially in 2024? Yeah,
Yeah, no, this is a like no question in my mind. I would want to go the Amazon route specifically because I've seen. I mean, I've launched my own Shopify store in
yeah,
the past. It is very difficult to even just get the inherent buyer trust that this is a real website.
yeah,
It's not a scam, and you can
yeah,
input your credit card info, and you're going to get your product.
yeah,
No, it is so much harder to make a non-marketplace work unless you are an
yeah,
established brand already. And so if you're doing a
yep,
brand new product, you are going to be like, get your product, launch it on Amazon, build up a following, get a large number of reviews. And if anything, you should be maybe thinking, okay, could I make a direct to consumer type situation on a Shopify, an expansion channel for me that
yep,
maybe that allows me to get a little bit more margin. Even then, Amazon's just such a sticky ecosystem. People who are going to buy on Amazon, if they see that you have another option off of Amazon, will still go
yeah,
back to Amazon to make that
yeah.
purchase.
Yeah, that's right. So, like I think in December, I had to buy a laptop from ASUS.
Yeah,
So I went to the ASUS original website, and then I was going to put my credit card info, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it from Amazon. I went to Amazon and then bought it from there.
yeah,
And yeah, so because the trust is there, I trust Amazon so much, and especially the returns are so easier, and everything is so seamless that you can trust Amazon. So yeah,
yeah.
gonna do that. Mike, I'm gonna continue that question into another thing that if you have to start, let's just say you are starting your own brand, would you source it from China, or would you try to find some local thing and source it? Because there are a lot of products that are made in USA, and then they do get that badge. So what's your thought around that?
I think, ooh, this is a meaty question. This is a really good one. I think from my side, you as a new brand trying to source a product should go after where can I maintain a positive relationship with my
Yeah,
supplier.
yeah,
If you have a really good product, you want to make sure that you have some sort of exclusive rights with your supplier. And if you can't maintain exclusive rights with your supplier, then you probably want to make sure that you are at least getting a very competitive price point there. I think
yeah,
maintaining a competitive price on a made in the US product can be quite difficult. Now, that said, there are some other upsides to it in terms of what we talked about earlier. If you have an overly seasonal product where being able to maintain replens at a faster rate, you're going to be much better off with replenishing your inventory through a US seller than you are through a Chinese seller without paying an arm and a leg for freight costs
Yeah.
in peak season. So I think the more seasonal sort of a business you are, that really could open up the door for why this makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Granted, again, you can get around that by saying, if I have a product that doesn't go bad, right? As long as you have something that is
Yeah.
shelf stable and you have a
Yeah.
reasonable warehouse, you can get your products, keep it on your shelves. So I think that there's options there. I'm not sure if China is always going to be the most competitive location anyway. I know some of the suppliers, I'm not going to say I've worked with, but some very smart people
Yeah.
that I have worked with who deal with suppliers have been able to find really compelling supplier opportunities outside of China, still maintaining a location in Asia. And I do think at the end of the day, that's probably going to be the sweet spot for the vast majority of sellers. I'm not convinced that outside of this, let me get more inventory quickly sort of use case, that Made in the USA carries significant value even with the batching.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, I another question that I have is TikTok Shop. Do you think now the talks is that it is going to be banned, but before that, did you see any while is it worthwhile for a person who is selling on Amazon, or is it?
I think it's worthwhile. I think so. I am trying to learn more about how to make TikTok shops successful myself. I see there
Yeah,
being a lot of
nice.
opportunity in terms of,
Yeah,
I think Amazon is great because that's where people start shopping right now. We know that over half
yeah,
of product searches take place not even on Google, but actually are taking place directly on Amazon. And then a large percentage of the ones that do originate off of Amazon eventually make their way onto Amazon.
yeah,
But I don't think that is a moat that they will maintain forever, especially if, again, everything that Amazon's been doing with their FBA fee increases is really putting sellers into a mode where they need to increase their prices, and Amazon, I
yeah,
think, could be losing this call it main value prop of, oh, I'm going to buy on Amazon because I know I'm going to get a really good price. I think
yeah,
Amazon's losing that, and I think TikTok Shops is getting a large generation of customers who they're not coming up with an idea and saying, oh, I want this product. Let me see if I can find it on Amazon. They're
yeah,
seeing the product in a TikTok video, and then they're going
yeah,
to shop it directly in the app that they're already natively.
yeah, yeah. So I was, I had a couple of clients who were, asked me to set up their TikTok shop, and I did it. And the only thing that I noticed was, clearly noticed was, you have to be really price competitive on, TikTok.
Yep.
If you have because there were some products that were, uh, really premium products. So, the price was this, and they were charging this much, and it was not getting any sales. But if you are marginally priced, or if you are priced correctly, then you can see a lot of good sales, and it's a really amazing thing. And TikTok overall, to be very honest, I personally have a theory, and my theory is that the world has actually changed after COVID, because before COVID, uh, a million followers was a really big thing. But after TikTok, 10 million followers, 20 million followers, it's normal thing. And then, people search things on TikTok, instead of Google.
Yep.
That and so stuff like that, it actually, we feel old. Like before COVID, we didn't feel old, but right after COVID, like I feel a generational gap with my siblings and stuff, younger ones. So yeah, I think the world has actually changed, and we are just not accepting it.
Oh, that's funny. I can absolutely see where you're coming from there. I don't know, and this is fully, I don't know how much of the subscriber gap, because I've noticed the exact same thing. What used to be a big number, even just 3-4
Yeah.
years ago, feels like, oh, that's just table stakes now. If you're not doing at least 10
Yeah.
times that much, what's the point? I do wonder how much of that is bot traffic and
Yeah.
are actually just not real accounts. But again, maybe I'm just not giving TikTok nearly enough credit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's correct. And what do you think is the next after Amazon, which is like we talked about TikTok, but after that there is Walmart and other really small spaces that that can generate good results. Do you have any recommendation for people who want to move away from Amazon, or is Amazon like personally I would love to do Amazon and stay on Amazon because the PPC is relatively easier. You can see the results and you don't have to go into a lot of stuff. And I think you can understand that if you try to set up Google Ads properly, you have to connect it with Google Analytics, and then Web Console, and then you have to do a lot of stuff, and then you have to put in the pixel and stuff like that. But on Amazon, it's just simple plug and play. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think so. Amazon is absolutely my number one. There's not a
Yes.
single other area that I would want to be selling before
Yeah.
Amazon. I think
Yes.
if you're trying to expand your position, I would probably be recommending that sellers try to get into any sort of niche shops before they go to something like Walmart or eBay. So if you are selling ones that I've worked with before are like Chewy, Home Depot, it is usually better for you to go into I'm a pet product instead of trying to list my pet product on Walmart. I will get more sales on that same product if I list it on Chewy instead. If I am a home improvement
Nice.
product, I will do much better on Home Depot than I will on Walmart. If you are truly, there's no niche seller in the space marketplace for you to list on, then I think Walmart would be my next big one. That said, I would have anybody who wants to branch out and have these additional channels just be very wary about how well can you maintain your price on these additional channels, knowing that if you lose your buy box on Amazon for a day because your price on Walmart went weird or Chewy refused
Yeah.
to update your price, like that is going to be a lot more meaningful for most sellers than if the reverse happens and you just never sold on Chewy or you never sold on Walmart.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So usually we try to wrap up the podcast in 30 minutes. So Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was really nice session. Do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, well, closing remarks. One, this has just been so much fun, so I really appreciate you
Yeah.
having me on here. I will shamelessly plug myself if anybody wants to follow for weekly ad tips. Follow me on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/in/Mike Frekey. Love to just really connect with people, figure out, hey, how are you doing advertising any differently than I'm doing advertising, so I
Yeah.
can learn. And I also sometimes give away some of the tools that I work on, so you can always look out for that too.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Take care.
Thank you, Zaid.